What's up everyone, it's Chewburger84 here from Alternerd Reality, and today is a good day because we have a patch coming in for Realm of Champs, especially including one thing that we all wanted, which was a fix to the progression bug. So we're going to go through all the patch notes right now, but before we do, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe, and that notifications bell, because we want to make sure that we keep you up to date with all things Realm of Champs going forward. So let's talk about this patch. So they are changing the progression and economy a little bit. They've obviously been a little bit concerned about a couple of guys like myself who have been farming this game very heavily and have built up some pretty heavy gold stashes. Me myself, I'm sitting at about 130,000 gold right now. I think that's going to drop down a lot though, because once we can level characters up to 20 and actually increase that gear that we've all got stored, I can see thousands and thousands of that going. But they are going to start putting a little bit of a reduction on the amount of gold that we make now from completing new content. And there also is going to be a slight reduction in gold to leveling up that gear as well. So it's interesting that they're doing this so early. They're obviously worried about inflation before we get to worldwide launch. So I don't think that's a bad thing. We don't want to have too much of a head start on global launch players, or that can be too intimidating to bring people into the game later on. The tutorial's been improved a little bit, so it's going to be about 50% less length. Contextual tutorials as well, so things like how to do objectives, how to level up your champions, and also some better guides on early game characters. I think this is actually very much needed, because when you jump into this game at the moment, it's very much about figuring out by yourself, or hoping that there's some idiot on YouTube like myself trying to tell you what to do better. Now, idle detection is a very good thing to come in right now. What we have seen is because in the early parts of farming, you can lose to win, okay? You have been able to increase your battle power just by sitting in a match. We've also seen some people when they're in a match that they know it's going to go badly, they just sit back in the corner and let their team get stomped. So if you do not participate in a match to above a certain level now, if you idle for a certain period of time, you will not get rewards. I love this. Idle cheaters have been a problem in so many games, and I think this is a great change. Again, only really for the early game, because later game at the moment, not that there is a late game at the moment, but later game at the moment, you need to win, otherwise you go further backwards. So this is not too bad. Now there's also a new Stronghold Map, which is Wakandan themed, which is pretty cool. I think that's going to be interesting, I suppose. Defending the entrance to Jalia is the idea behind this one. And you've got increasing adaptoid incursions in this match as well. Now, obviously, the thing we wanted to see was Spidey going to get his boost here? Was he finally going to get his time in the sun? Because he has been by far the worst character over the last couple of weeks. So his light attack has a very, very, very tiny buff. So it's going up from 22% to 26% on his light attack. That's it. No other changes. This doesn't feel strong enough. I guess now that we can take characters up to level 20, maybe we can start to get a better feel of how Spider-Man sits. But it really is his attack. I mean, you think that someone that is so squishy, he needs something to counterbalance that. The dodges, there's so many abilities to get around that. I think just about every character has an AoE right now that can still hit you during that. So that feels like it's probably not enough for him to make him relevant. Now, Sorcerer Supima is getting her second round of nerfs, and this is in the book spec. It looks like they've left the orb spec alone. So the special one, they've increased the cooldown of the healing from 16 seconds to 18 seconds. Now, I don't think the heal's been the most overpowered part of her kit, but I think this is probably a necessary change, and it's not going to be game-breaking. She's still going to be very relevant. Now, this one I actually really like, because the range of her ability to cast that AoE damage is stupidly large. So when you have two Sorks, for example, that are book spec, you can just sit there and range people out from miles away. And the fact that they can outrange because of the AoE size, things like Spider-Man and Storm, really good Sork players can cause a lot of hassle for all range characters. That forces you to come in and then you just get spanked by their melee. So they're both very, very good changes, and I think bring her a little bit more in line as to where she needs to be. It'll be interesting to see if that's enough. Now, Black Panther. They've changed the AoE on the heavy attack of this character into being a single target only. Seems like a weird choice because I don't think Black Panther is broken currently. Yeah, I don't know what the motivation is behind that one, but look, it is what it is. I mean, I suppose it is an assassin style character that's supposed to come in, burst, and then get out. The special one is obviously AoE. That little combination between the two was, I guess, powerful if you have a really high ranked BP. But being that that's only probably, let's say, a B to A class character, definitely not an S tier, I don't think this was necessarily something we needed to do. And same again with the Gamma Hammer. You know, we've seen the heavy attack for Hulk reduced attack power by more than 20%, which is a massive reduction. The distribution of damage between hit events from 30 to 70, up on 38% and then down to 62%. And then adjusted the area of effect placement and size. So that's a pretty big nuke for range and damage for the heavy attacks on the Hulk Gamma Hammer, who I don't think was the overpowered version at all. I think, if anything, the one that's more useful at the moment is definitely Gauntlet spec, but the Hammer spec does rip out a fair bit of damage and can harass backliners very well. So I hope the hitboxes aren't too small for that spec now, because yeah, that's going to affect him pretty badly. That's a reasonable nerf. The special 3, they have slightly increased the damage on that for him. That's the one where he rages out and goes bang, bang, bang. So that's always good. I think he needs a little bit more than that myself, especially after getting that reduced attack power ratio, but we'll see. Now, same goes for the heavy attack spec as well. They've significantly reduced by 26% the amount of damage that you can do from your heavy attack as well. So that's not great. So it's all about reducing the area of effect damage, which is real interesting here. I guess this is supposed to make life a little bit easier for characters maybe like Spidey, so that if there's less characters that can do AoE, he's a little bit more relevant. Maybe they're trying to buff him in very indirect ways. I don't know. They've also adjusted the cooldown of the Special 1 to match Hulk's Gamma Special 1 cooldown duration. I wasn't actually aware until this that I actually checked that there was a difference, so it makes sense that they should be the same because it is the same character. Now, Iron Legionnaire, I don't think he was broken in any way, but it certainly is interesting to see what they're doing here. So we're seeing a reduced attack power on his basic, a 3% nerf with that AP ratio. That's interesting because I guess for me, he really has been a very effective harass character. It looks like they're trying to encourage you to balance out more heavy attacks by increasing the attack power ratio on the heavy by 2% there as well. The Special 2 with a laser volley, that's been slightly reduced. That's not a big deal. I mean, that's on such a low cooldown anyway. It's not something we're spamming. But Unibeam special power ratio, they've nerfed by about 8%. That's curious. Now, having a couple of rare pieces on Iron Man now, and you can see the fact that he does get range special bonus damage on things like Unibeam, the further away you are, I guess it makes sense that he could get a little bit out of control, but I think that makes the leveling process on getting him up to level 20 a little bit more painful. So the surprising thing is here, no one's really gotten a buff other than Spidey, and it was very, very minor. Storm, surprisingly, as probably the best character in the game before this patch, untouched, all right? Untouched. That's very surprising. So she is definitely going to, I think, slot into that first place well and truly now. The debate, I think, between Sork and Storm being the best is now over. Now, with gear, it looks like they're removing bleed resist completely because there's such little bleed mechanics in the game. Now, for the spear and the orb power enhancement, so these are the alternate specs for Black Panther and also for the Sorcerer, we're seeing that their attack bonuses will now generate on rare and higher gear pieces. So SP2 and SP3 power bonuses can generate on those weapons. I've already got the orb for my Sorcerer, so that feels a little bit rough that I'm going to miss out on that one. So here's hoping another one drops in the near future. Now, as far as bug fixes go, when certain objectives weren't claimable if you had the exact value, so this was happening since day one, that let's say you needed 700 BP to be able to get a reward, you'd get to 700 and it wouldn't give it to you. You'd have to move above it, which obviously we can't at the moment, so it's great that they fixed that. They've also fixed issues when notification badges wouldn't clear. That has been surprising. You think, okay, I've claimed the quest. Oh, great, I've triggered another one. You go back, and then obviously it's gone. Several issues which cause the capture zone in Arena Conquest to be displayed inaccurately. I've died multiple times to this because it looks like you've capped it, you start running for their base, and then you cop missiles to the face, and you're like, what the hell just happened, man? So I'm really glad that they've fixed this one. The real big one that we wanted, of course, is fixing the issue where players couldn't rank up past 10. So this is going to be fantastic. I think you're going to see a lot of characters at level 1000 now, or power 1000. So brace yourselves for that if you are a little bit new, or if you're trying to get an ult up there. Life might be about to get a little bit more difficult. Fixed an issue that caused ally bots to clump up in the Adaptoid Assault. Various crash, disconnected, and performance improvements. Audio fixes, all the fun stuff. They fixed an issue where the laser volley would sometimes fire in the wrong direction. I had this happen multiple times, and I thought it was me being just trash on Iron Man, but it turns out, no, I wasn't losing my mind. The auto target was broken. You'd jump back, you'd fire it, and then it'd go in a completely wrong direction. So I'm glad that it wasn't just me going mental here. Fixed an issue where bots wouldn't prioritize the capture point. Nothing drives you crazy when you pull off a kill but die at the same time and there's only a bot left and he runs around in circles while the enemy team is dead and waits until they come and just take it from you. So that's a great fix. Bots definitely need some AI improvement. They've been kind of suckish this first week. Fixed an issue where Bodox would stop attacking enemies in range. This allowed a lot of boss rushing in the last sort of 10% where people would just forget it and just dive in on that base very early. I think that's still a relevant strategy, but I think it's going to be a little bit more harder to pull off right now. Connection quality, when a connection is poor, they've added in. Now in Arena Conquest, if all players are knocked out, everyone will quickly respawn instead of waiting the full 20 seconds. That's an interesting change. I'm very curious to see what that all means. Now, we're also seeing, I'm going to loop back to the start here. I wanted to finish on this because I think it's the biggest part of this patch, other than fixing the level 10 bug, is that they're slowing down progression in regards to your battle power. So if you haven't already cruised through Warrior up until that 700 point, it's going to get a lot more challenging. So what they're doing is slowing down the pacing of Warrior tier. This change will allow players to progress quickly through the initial tiers and get comfortable with the game before we take the training wheels off in Warrior tier and allow player skills to grow. This will also affect item drops to progress players past common gear quickly and make the boxes in the store more valuable. So it sounds like the early game will go faster to get to Warrior tier, but it sounds like it might slow down after that. We have to wait until the patch kicks in to see how much this changes it. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. We won't really know until it goes live, which we're hoping will happen in the near future. But I will say this, I'm really, really happy with the way that Kabam has been all over this. They've been incredibly active on the Discord. They've been listening to feedback. Some of these choices seem interesting. It feels like they're nerfing damage down rather than bringing characters up. That's probably a healthier way of doing it, I suppose, because when you make someone, bigger and buffer, sometimes it scales in a way you can't anticipate and they become broken, and that creates a whole new issue. So balance is going to be interesting over the next few days. I think Storm definitely dominates after this patch, but what do you guys think? Is this going to make a change to the way that you play the game? Is one of your characters better or worse now? Make sure you let me know in the comments below. And again, remember to like, subscribe, hit that notifications bell, and I'll be back really soon with some content for Realm of Champions. Cheers.